It's just awesome to be able to see these birds that usually live up in the Arctic in Canada, right here in Wisconsin. Oftentimes, people look at the winter weather in the northern United States and wonder why anyone chooses to live there. The ice, the snow, the cold temperatures, it's just not worth it. To the birders of the north, however, there are plenty of reasons to stick around, even during the coldest months of the year. Out of all of the birds that make their way into the northern United States when the weather gets colder, one of the most iconic is the snowy owl. Snowy owls move south during winter, spreading into the lower 48 states when food is scarce. For those of us lucky enough to live in the states bordering Canada, at least a few of them get spotted each winter. When reports of this beautiful Arctic bird started coming in from the shores of Lake Michigan, I had to go and see if I could find one. Hey everyone, this is Ryan from Badgerland Birding, and today I'm searching for one of the most exciting birds that comes down from the north, the snowy owl. And I'm here at the lakefront in Wisconsin, where a couple of them have been seen recently. So let's go see if we can find one of these amazing birds. It's one of my favorites. I scanned the immediate area looking for small, white snowman shapes on the piers and breakwalls. I found a red-breasted merganser swimming around the calm water, along with ring-billed gulls and mallards, but didn't see any owls at first glance. But then, one of my friends gave me a tip on the location of an owl that he had seen earlier in the day, way out on the water. I saw a snowy owl way out on one of the piers briefly. I took a picture of it and then I looked back and it was just gone. So that means it's around here someplace, but I don't know where. So I'm gonna have to go on a little adventure to see if I can find this owl. And it's freezing cold out. Even though it's not winter yet, it feels like winter. Since snowy owls have a habit of sitting on breakwalls and other structures, I decided to walk the length of one of the breakwalls out toward a lighthouse. The freezing temperatures made for a treacherous walk, as ice had coated many of the rocks. As I dodged waves breaking over the concrete barriers, and carefully stepped around the ice rink that had formed on the path, I noticed something that looked a bit out of place on one of the boulders. After taking a closer look, I was elated to discover that it was in fact a snowy owl. The snowy owl is a bird that spends much of the year in the Arctic, coming down into the United States during the winter. The numbers of these birds moving south varies depending on the year. In seasons when lemmings and other food sources are scarce, snowy owls will have an eruption year, where significantly more individuals will be on the move. As their name suggests, snowy owls are white, with black barring, and are perfectly camouflaged for a life in the tundra. Females and immature birds will have heavier barring than the males. Look for snowy owls in open fields, at airports, along lakes, and really anywhere with few trees and good vantage points to hunt for food. They will also sit up on telephone poles, buildings, and other structures to get as good of a view as possible of the land they're hunting. Speaking of hunting, since snowy owls live in the high Arctic where the sun is sometimes up for 24 hours straight, they are perfectly fine with hunting during the day, and can sometimes even be seen swooping across fields and pouncing on prey in broad daylight. Most of the time, however, they will be sitting in one spot and looking around, as snowy owls are known to be stationary for hours at a time. Well, seeing that snowy owl was amazing. It was in such a cool spot, just tucked in that break wall, safe from the wind, safe from the waves. I'm gonna go around the harbor and see if I can find maybe more snowy owls or take a look at some of the other birds that have been around, like the male and female harlequin ducks. I headed south, giving the lake another look before moving on to try for the harlequin duck. To my surprise and delight, I found a second snowy owl. Just found snowy owl number 2, and this one is on top of a break wall. Really nice views of this bird. Still trying to keep distance so as not to freak it out or anything, but it's just awesome to be able to see these birds that usually live up in the Arctic in Canada, right here in Wisconsin. With the lighthouse as a backdrop, I stayed for a few minutes, taking some photos and observing the owl as it swiveled its head around. After basking in the thrill of seeing a second member of this majestic species, I moved away from the safety of the harbor and onto a part of the coastline that was unprotected from the wind, exactly the kind of conditions that sea ducks, and especially harlequin ducks, are accustomed to living in. I located a small group of buffleheads and a flock of white-winged scoters flying out over the water. I was surprised to also find a late sanderling feeding on the algae that had collected on the beach. Farther north, I sifted through the ducks getting tossed around by the strong waves of Lake Michigan. Eventually, I came across 3 interesting-looking ducks near the shore. One was a long-tailed duck. The other 2 were the harlequin ducks, with one being a brightly colored male. They seemed totally fine with riding the large waves that sometimes even crashed over them. Seeing these 3 birds was a great way to cap off an amazing day of birding. Just got done seeing the harlequin ducks. This was an incredible day of birding with the snowy owls and then some of the sea ducks that were here too. Really glad to get all these birds. It's always a treat to see a snowy owl, especially in a beautiful place like Lake Michigan. Even though the shorter and colder days of the Midwest winter can seem dreary at times, the landscapes are alive with fascinating birds to see. I was extremely thankful to have had the chance to find 2 beautiful snowy owls, along with such a nice collection of waterfowl. Hopefully this will be a good winter for the birds that migrate along the Great Lakes, and hopefully I'll get to encounter these species again in the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding. That could be me.